Hey guys, my guest today is Peder Bergstrand. This gentleman is from a long-running rock and stoner rock band called Lowrider out of Sweden. Their latest release will be a reissue of their debut album, which came out in the early 2000s. They also have a recent release that is a compilation with the band Elephant Tree called The Long Forever out on Blues Funeral Records. You can find Peter's graphic artwork and his director work at peterbergstrand.com. And you can find Lowrider on Instagram at lowridergram. So we'll get right into this interview. We have a really good talk with Peter and are looking forward to new music from Lowrider, hopefully in the near future. Fingers crossed. Okay, here's my interview with Peder Bergstrand from Lowrider. I'm in Cleveland. 5 minutes outside the city. I can see it from my house. So
I can't.
You cannot see Cleveland?
I'm also not. I'm turning 45 this year. I think this is where reading glasses and mostly you're being just sight impaired. So yeah, even if I were at your house, maybe I wouldn't see Cleveland anyways.
I'm 48, so I'm fighting the glasses. I think I need them for night driving. It's a bitch getting old, dude.
It is what it is. Yeah. A longer story, but yeah, I still can't really. If you hear a cat in the background, it's because I have a cat.
Yeah, I have a dog, but I definitely hear the cat. Actually, you can keep that in there because they'll know we're not AI.
Yeah,
we're keeping it real.
No, it's God damn it. She is not happy. I got a Siamese cat. They're very chatty, and got two dogs. They are not this loud unless you're an intruder in their. Well, to them, everyone's a murderer until they've proven it otherwise.
Well, at least they act that way. Our dog acts that way too. He's a good watchdog, but I don't know what he would do if actually somebody came to try and start some business here.
What kind of dog do you got?
He is a maniac, part maniac. We're thinking Australian cattle dog with a lab mix, so he has both those tendencies. He has that work dog genetics. He's trying to hurt us. He's very obsessed. We can let him outside. He ain't going anywhere. He's, what are you guys doing? So
hey,
relax.
Hey,
yeah.
What you doing? What you doing there?
Yep. Even when he's relaxing, he's staring at us. So we do the best we can with good old
so he's intense then.
Yeah, I think he's made appearances on this podcast. Sometimes when I'm leaning down, that's usually him, but he's not in the room today. So I'm trying to get more professional with this podcast. So maybe I'll bring the dog in here and there, but we'll see.
I love dogs.
You're in Sweden, right?
I'm in Sweden. Yeah. As far as I've been told, I'm in Sweden.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a while also, so it's pretty much confirmed.
Your entire life?
I've left the country, but I lived in Tokyo for a summer. I don't know if that counts.
Yeah, that definitely counts. That's cool.
But it doesn't count. I could only order like 1 to 4 beers. That's sort of where my Japanese goes. And I can say sorry, which is you say a lot.
That's what I call buzzkill. Shit.
The only thing you need to know is just say kudasai. When you come to Japan, because like you are going to bump into people because no one has boundaries, because everyone is just they grow up with no space. So being like, and also you're just sorry for being a Westerner in Tokyo and being just oblivious. So it's like you just say sorry to everyone, and you're gonna be fine.
What took you to Tokyo?
I had another band in between Lowrider and Lowrider, like the two eras of Lowrider. Called IR Droid. That was, if I always call it sort of about your like mix of dogs. This was like a mix of Interpol and early Queens of Stone Age, maybe like that kind of thing. So more melodic, but still like the heaviness backed into it, and kind of robotic and like post-punky to it. Lots of reverb on the guitars. And so I did that for 2 albums that maybe not of all of like the Lowrider sphere people has picked up on, but it's definitely overlapping with some of our later material, like in the sound. If you like Refractions, a lot of like the more melodic stuff on Refractions is more of the IR Droid sensibilities. bleeding into Lowrider. But yeah, my old like childhood friend and also the drummer in that sort of band that we formed. We formed the day when he was moving to Tokyo for 2 years to study Japanese. So I just went for the summer to like I literally went to hang out with him and then just see if this band was something we wanted to explore. So we just rehearsed and hung out in Tokyo, and that was fantastic. And then he actually moved back for the band, and we toured quite a bit and did 2 records. So, but yeah, that's my short flirtatious period with Japan and Tokyo.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a cool story. Those records are out. Can we check them out?
Oh, for sure. They're on Spotify. I are droid, like you are droid, but
okay.
If we consider like a robot trying to speak coherently, it would be like
right.
I are droid. So yeah, it's on Spotify, and
Well,
it's
definitely check it out.
two records worth of it, and especially like the first record was actually sort of before I met that drummer, and we figured we should do that together more as a band. It was more of a project that I did with Tommy from Dozer and Greenleaf, where we recorded one of the songs, like the first single off of that first album. That was like one of my favorite songs from that project. Was actually first recorded with Tommy and Eric, who's the original drummer from Dozer. We as a 3-piece, we just went into the studio over a weekend and recorded 2 tracks. That still is like some of the best stuff personally I feel like I've done, and it was just like because it was pure inspiration. So yeah, it's definitely like leaning into the heavier stuff of Lowrider as well. So I think if you dig Lowrider, you should definitely go check out the track "Blood and Ether" by I.R. Droid, and you're gonna have a good time.
All right, I'm writing that down. Definitely gonna check it out because I'm a fan of Tommy's too. I've been listening to Greenleaf since I don't know 2008 or something.
Oh yeah,
There's something in the water out there in Sweden, man. You guys got Graveyard, you got Greenleaf, you got Dozer, you got Lowrider, and I'm missing a bunch. But
yeah,
crazy.
I think we're the size. Speaking of Tokyo, like all of Sweden is like a third of Tokyo in population.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I talked about this before actually. Why is there so many like songwriters and musicians and bands coming out of Sweden? Because it's statistically it doesn't make sense. But it's just the long story very short is that we, at least during the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, we've had a really deep tradition in having tax funded music schools where essentially like when you start just go to first class in school, you also just like music school down the road or like in the same town just have these like open nights where you can go and try out all instruments and just see if anything's fun, and then if you like it then you just enroll. And since it's tax funded, it doesn't really cost you more than maybe, I don't know, $10 a month or something like that, or even that. It's just like that. It was this very like encouragement to have young people try out music, and off of that, of course, it's just like anything. If you're from Brazil, or then everyone plays football because we have a tradition of football. We have a tradition of great songwriting with ABBA and everything. So growing up in the 90s, there was just everyone was in a band. It was not something weird. It's just like, yeah, that's what you do. Start a band. And if it's like even if it sucks, it's you try it. And then for me it was just that it was not something weird that you picked up a guitar, especially in the 90s. It wasn't weird. It's like what you did. But it was coming from a smaller town. It's weird that a lot of the people that I grew up with, I just figured, like, yeah, it's just the guys who were hanging out that we share rehearsal rooms and whatnot. It's just like people you grow up with. And then you realize, like, now 20, 30 years later, it's just like, yeah, he's now playing in Refused, and those guys are in the Hives, and it's just, and he's playing guitar in Helicopters now. So it is very much a small community of people that sort of just, you realize you've been really blessed of growing up with fantastic musicians around you, just inspiring you.
Is it in a concentrated area, or is it more like a bunch of cities in Sweden, or you
No,
guys pretty close together? I know it's
I
small country, but still, you might be hours away from each other.
it's a small country, but it's sort of like the size of California,
Right.
uh, or even a little bit bigger, I think. So it's like the three major cities, like Stockholm and Gothenburg and Malmo, they are like in a triangle in the bottom of this very tall country. But then you have the whole hardcore scene, like with Refused and all those bands, like Cult of Luna. Those are way up north. They have their own scene up there, and just driving there is that's like a 7-8 hour drive. So still, though, it's the, when we started out, it was like the scene was for what we did was like minimal. It was like we were just on the same like tape trading sites, me and Tommy.
Yep.
That's how from Dozer. That's how we like. I traded the first Lowrider tape demo with Dozer's first tape demo, and that's how we became friends. It's like, oh, you
Yeah.
do that? I'll send you my band's demo, and then we've sort of just gone hand in hand since. But yeah, it's super small. If you everyone in Gothenburg knows everyone is playing music,
Yeah.
and the same thing in Stockholm is a little bit bigger, but still not like big. So like if you live here for a couple of years, everyone is in a band.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
It sounds like Seattle in the late 80s, early 90s, because
yeah, for sure.
one of my guest hosts is Dave Hillis, and he worked at London Bridge in Seattle. And I've had him on. I've talked to him. He's been on a bunch of podcasts with me now, and wrestling these stories out of him. It sounds similar to Sweden in that they had a lot of good music teachers in the Tri-County area early on, and then that's why all these killers just started coming out of there, and all those killer
Yeah,
bands started coming out of there. Until he kind of told me that, it didn't make it was just mystical to me. I was like, gosh, there's all these monsters coming out of this very tiny area that were so influential. But he mentioned what you mentioned. It's not, I don't think it's state sponsored there, but they just had a lot of really good music teachers. And so they were all doing that stuff. And back in the 80s, that Pacific Northwest wasn't what it is now. They were pretty isolated. So they had to make their own scenes. There's a direct parallel with what you're saying there. It's pretty cool.
yeah. I'd say also we'll see what happens now with the new generation of constantly being fed
Yeah.
just an algorithm of you shall never be bored. Definitely, I think it's the converging streams of or light rays of like being bored and then having someone who inspires you and just it's opportunity meets sort of like boredom and then shit happens just out of necessity. But and that was 100% the thing where we were from. If something was supposed to happen, or no one came to play our town, like bigger bands, so we had to make our own scene, pretty much. But also in the whole grunge like movement that we came up in, like me being like, I'm born in 1980, so like I was a teen perfectly in like those from
Me too.
not 91 to 96 ish were like those were my formative teens, and pretty much all around me, the people around me were like some years older maybe, but I could then, even though I didn't have the age really properly to get into the clubs, they could sneak me in the back or whatever, and it was just like a wonderful time of everyone was just organizing gigs all over, and it wasn't hard getting it. It was like it was a lot of these, I don't know what you call them, but like youth places, just like where you have a little stage and you could get a rehearsal room, and it's like youth center, I guess is what it would be called. That's sort of also a cultural thing that just exists, or it did exist at least in the 90s. Like, there was like every part of every town, not even just the one in a smaller town. It was like every area had like their own youth center.
Mhm.
So it was literally like you started to branch out. Oh, those the guys from the other side of town. They also like I heard they have a cool scene over there, and you just took your bike and watched gigs at that youth center. It's like literally like this mini Seattle-ish scene in Karlstad where I was from. And as far as I know from like Borlänge, where Dozer is from, is they also had like a really just solid base of anyone who wanted a rehearsal space could get it, and the other bands who were already rehearsing were really like supportive of just everyone was just trying to help everyone. It was just like this just positive momentum upwards
Mhm.
where I, as a sort of a 13, 14-year-old, didn't feel like it was more like I felt picking up a guitar and maybe going on stage was more like I had everything to win or gain from it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna fuck up in front of all these people. Well, no, fucking just do your thing. So, and I realized just how rare that is, and getting that encouragement along with, yeah, having great teachers is and inspirers, I guess, is everything. I definitely wouldn't. I can see like all the sliding doors where I would not have continued doing music. I would still be like interested in music, but like picking up a guitar and just learning how to do it, and then also having a band is like the worst thing ever. It's so hard.
It's tough.
So
I've done it myself a lot. It's just
yeah,
really hard.
yeah. So it's just there's so many reasons not to do it. I mean, that ties into just like why Lowrider still exists. That is out of sheer encouragement from fans and the scene, really. So we're very blessed to be able to just get the encouragement to keep doing this.
And I'm sure you guys have a bond too. You guys have been probably friends forever. I've been in that boat too. I've had a couple bands from, we were all friends from high school, and the older you get, the harder it gets. But trying to keep people inspired is the tough part. The older you get, nobody's getting rich out of here, so it's
no, and
really do it from the artistic point.
Yeah, and I would still be, for me, it's always been about, I realized that as time went, oh, the thing for me is really like the songwriting. That's where I consider myself, the thing that sort of just makes me tick is writing songs and hearing them in my head, and then hearing what I heard in my head come out of speakers. That's like the biggest kick I'm seeking. The gigs are fantastic, and it's such a like life peak when that happens, but then it is literally like having a night out on town. It's just, it's very, you can't really, it's not forever. Whereas right. If you record something, you feel like you actually did something that you could carve out and perfect the details, and then it's like, then you can actually back out of the room, and it's like that thing, regardless of what I do, that's always going to be there, which is fantastic. And I guess that ties us back into what we're talking about, that we're doing this 25th anniversary edition of Ode to Aya, which is just that is weird that it's been 25 years, but also that anyone would be like even care 25 years later is, I think, testament to just that even though we made that record pretty much like, some of it was written beforehand and some of it was spur of the moment in the studio, is really, it wasn't made like our last records. That was more deliberate and made over a longer time. Still, it feels like it's so, it has something apparently that makes it special to people even 25 years later, which is, I don't really know what that is, but maybe you can tell me what's special about it, because I'm too inside baseball to know.
Yeah, I get that completely. Like I said, I'm an artist too, so it's you got to kind of separate yourself from it. I'm admittedly, dude, I've only been listening to Lowrider for 5 years.
Cool.
When Refractions came out, you guys were a pandemic band for me. So yeah. We were locked down, and all I was doing was listening to random playlists to try to find new bands, and some of the American bands like King Buffalo and All Them Witches, and then you guys fell into that playlist. Now,
two of the best bands, by the way.
Oh my gosh, I talk about them all the time, and I've talked to a couple of the guys already, and hopefully we'll have them on again soon. But yeah, they're one of my favorite bands. But I just got back into that kind of scene after so many years of doing other things, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is the stuff I love. This is like real rock and roll music. So yeah, as soon as I heard Refractions, I was like, oh man, these guys are awesome. And then I went back and listened to the debut record, but in between there, I'm kind of still a new fan, which makes me crack up because I know you guys have been around for so long.
That's the thing. We took a break, but it was just, I've talked about this before, but it was literally like, to me, I never stopped doing music. It was just I stopped momentarily doing Lowrider. But and it's funny to talk to someone who came in with Refractions, is because I'm happy that was your first record, actually, because I guess it's just interesting to see
Yeah,
someone watching the band from, or actually seeing O2IO debut record, not based on like this record that you carried with you, and then we had to sort of with Refractions live up to, because that was like what it was like for us. It was like with that long of a wait, it just becomes impossible to follow that thing up. So though that thing that actually made Refractions happen was that in 2016 or something, I just stopped trying to follow up that record because I'd been writing on it like on new songs for 4 or 5 years then.
in that
And
style.
yeah, I just try to give people what they want. Oh, I had these tracks that were more like leaning towards the IR Droid. The stuff that I did that was a little bit more melodic and a little bit less like, still as heavy, but just more like this, I don't know, warm, woolly freight train of like cotton candy that just runs you
Right.
over. But
Right,
isn't like
right.
Otoyo has this more of a young harshness to it.
Yeah,
Sort of like
absolutely.
different energy, whereas it like now it was just about, it's like a big sledgehammer. But still one that you want to be like just
Yeah.
almost like, I don't know, Sonic Avalanche is what I sort of think of it. That's what I wanted Refractions to be. And it was so nice to see that it seemed to resonate with both old fans and new ones, even though I feel like they're kind of different. But yeah, we had a long hiatus, but to me, I mean, I only had a hiatus for 2 3 years when I went to a graphic design school where I wasn't like actively playing that much music. But then I was back into IR Droid and like doing that full time, and like we were signed to a major label and everything with that for between 2006 and 2013. That was what I was doing.
Mhm.
And then it was just like we resurrected Lowrider. But for people who are just looking at the Lowrider timeline, it was like they didn't do anything from 2001.
That's what it looks like on paper, but I had a feeling
Yeah.
you were doing other stuff. This just come out of nowhere.
No, it was just like that thing where we formed the band as, or like we met in like high school and just formed this band. And it was just like, we had a lot of luck with the first demo we ever recorded was like put out by Jad, who now has Blues Funeral, then Meteor City Records that put out the debut. He put that out on a compilation, and we thought that we were going to be like just honorary mentions, just being on this compilation with some of our heroes. And then it seemed to be like that track was like the standout track for some people. I was just like, that's weird. And it just snowballed really quickly into us doing like an EP and then doing the album. That was all in like within 2 years that all of that happened. And then we did a Europe tour with Dozer and just saw all the realities of playing in a band. I was
Mhm.
just like, oh yeah, you get to sleep in the van and being cold for 4 weeks. And there's
Yeah.
8 people at the show. And it's like, oh yeah, this, okay.
Where's the glamour at? I mean,
Yeah, or it was like, oh, reality check. Yeah, when you're putting out your debut record, no one knows about you. And I was like, this is what it's going to be like for the next couple of years. And that happened at the same time as sort of, I felt like I didn't have really like a second record in me. I needed to write more to just feel like we had something. I just didn't want to put out a new record like in a year's time or 2 years' time, just because we were going on another tour. That's never what this band has been about.
Mhm.
And then in that time that we were sort of trying new stuff and just trying to get like a second record together, we were going into like we were becoming like 22, 23, something like that. And everyone was going to study somewhere, or one of us got a kid, and we just found ourselves being in 4 different cities. And it was just very hard keeping the band together without having like really an urgent demand of, yeah, you need to do this tour, or we booked this. So it wasn't like we quit. It was more like just faded out into, we'll eventually do more stuff, and then life happens. So, and then I gravitated towards more of doing this other kind of music, where I felt like personally I felt like I had heard and done all that this kind of like stoner rock-ish music could. I just wanted to try something else. So that's why also I focused on on IR Droid. And then out of a whim in like 2013, the Desert Fest festival here in London in Europe, they reached out and just wondered if is this the members of Lowrider? I was like, yes. because they found us through something, I don't remember. And we were just supposed to do one gig because we'd just put out our second record with IR Droid, and we were supposed to like put all of our efforts into that. It was like a major label behind it. And then we literally it was almost like the universe was trying to tell me something. We had like a showcase gig in London one week, and then the week after we were playing Desert Fest with Lowrider. And we did the gig with Android, and I think it was like 8 people there. Yeah. And then it was kind of brutal. It was like just this misfire of not the people who were supposed to be there to see the showcase gig just didn't show up, and it was just like a dud. And then the next week we played to like 2,000 people with Laura, and we never played to more than like 80 or 100 people back in the day. So we were just shocked. And that sort of showed us like, hey, the people really want us to do this thing. So we'll just do some more. And then the whole idea of doing another record came up. But then I wanted to do it justice. So it took literally like 7 years to get to where Refractions was made, but it seems like it was time well spent.
Sure.
But it's interesting to see that you came in with that one.
Yeah, it's a very mature record. It's more cinematic in nature, I think, than the first one.
Oh, yeah.
It's more mature, of course. You guys are more mature. You're older. You're different people. You probably have a lot of different influences now, and it reflects in that. How was the creation process for that record in the studio?
Which one?
Well, Refractions.
That's the interesting part, is like the vast just differences of both time, but also just between those records is literally like talking about almost 50s and 60s and today and recording technique. Right. Otio was made on a shoestring budget. We had the money to pay for 2 weeks in the studio because we had a friend. We were friends of the people who had the studio, basically because 2 of our band members who were going to a mixing engineer school where like that studio was a part of the complex, and they weren't really using the studio, but it was still like a state-of-the-art studio. And we have this money, how much time can we get? So we had 2 weeks, and then we were like out of time, and we didn't have time. We hadn't budget for anyone else. So there was like trial of fire. I think they've gone like half a year at that mixing engineer school. And it's like, okay, we're mixing and mastering this record. So it was just the 4 of us in the studio living, breathing that record and doing everything ourselves. Whereas, and it's like do or die, literally. Like with 2 days left of the record, we still hadn't recorded one of the title track, Otio, was still just like an idea in my head. I have this jam in my head. We need another song, like now. Let's try that. Let's try this. And I mean, we went from the studio room out 5 meters to the beds, bunk beds, and then back. That was like every day. So that was how it was fun, and we also hated the record when we were done because like we were so tired of each other. Yeah, it was literally like trying to make a record in a tour bus, where like you just hate everything about it and everyone involved at the end of it. But that's why also I wanted Refractions to be like something very different. So that was more of a meticulous. I have an idea. I'm inspired now, and I recorded everything when I was inspired, and then I was just trying to build on those like first little sparks of inspiration and just build around that, so nothing would feel like it was just recorded out of necessity because we were running out of time. I love Otio, but to me it has the best parts of that kind of a record and the worst parts. It sounds cohesive because it's like the same guitar sound all through the record, because we didn't have time to experiment. It was just like, this sounds good, go on all tracks.
Yeah, 1 amp, you can't.
Yeah, it's just
one drum kit.
Yeah. No, it's like there's no time. It's just like we record, and also we didn't even know we haven't come that far where I think, oh, it might actually be cooler with another kind of drum kit for this song. Sort of demands a different drum sound. I was like, what? We have drums. Why do we need another drum sound? So it has a sort of naive, youthful sort of just vibe to it, which I love.
Yeah, that's great.
But for the other one, it was like also that was recorded on tape because they had a tape, like real tape recorder in the studio. So it was like it was done the old fashioned way. And now when we're in like the 2010s, we could record everything from home on a laptop and just try out stuff. And then we just do drum takes later on, that like the master drum takes we would do in the same studio, because now Andreas, our drummer, has since worked in that studio ever since he was going to their school. So like we have this sort of legacy of that studio was our beginning, and it's still like where we record drums. But now everything else, like vocals and everything, we record where we can, and where as soon as you're inspired, you just bring up the laptop and record it, and then I could sit on it and just listen back to it. Like when I wasn't in like creation mode, more listening mode, just like out on a walk or something, I'd listen to the track and I was like, and then you get new ideas and you just hum those into like your phone and record it, and just it was like this iterative back and forth, almost like a Metallica, like in some kind of monster when they have like unlimited recording time. It was literally like that because like we knew that people wanted a new record from us, but there was no deadline, and the only thing that mattered was like that is going to be good enough.
You can get in trouble with that sometimes because if you have too much time and no pressure, you can spend 3, 4, 5 years on writing and recording it. And you kind of you can get into the weeds a little bit. How do you guys mitigate that?
We don't. So that I mean, we don't work fast, and that's because of me, because I write slow and I write like meticulously, and I write in this iterative way where I write and I try things and I listen back, and it's sort of like this very much, yeah, just it works really well for me, but it's not like the fastest way to move. But I think that's maybe what sets us apart in a way. That hopefully, like, we don't have the biggest output, but the stuff we put out there, I feel like someone else has to say that, but at least I can say that I can stand by everything that's on there. Either I know that that's like the first take ever done, and it's sort of like I love that it's spur of the moment, or it's where I've tried 300 things and I know this is the thing that is the best for this part. So it is like really a mix of being spontaneous and really just like trying to polish stuff to where it sits where it's supposed to be. But yeah, it isn't fast.
Well, that's good too. You don't want to be too fast. As an artist myself, like I've done both fast records and really long songwriting processes. So trying to find that middle ground is always kind of a challenge. So, but the songs are so strong, man, on Refractions. And on the latest one too, you guys did with Elephant Tree. It's just if you're gonna take your time and write songs like that, just keep that up because that's all that matters. That's why we're all here talking. I mean,
thank you. We're trying to all move out of the thing though, because the last record with Elephant Tree was actually like it became kind of painful in how it was like, because there we actually had like a deadline, and the last 6 months of recording that was not fun because it was just like I was literally just trying to follow up Refractions instead, which was like we had the eternal luxury of people caring about that record as well, and some people even named it their record of the year, and then it's like, fuck, I just thought we had to follow up Ode to Io, now we have to follow up Refractions. And also I need to follow up, just like I loved Elephant Tree's record that they put out in 2000 as well.
That was great.
So I just felt like this just needs, in all like different dimensions, this just needs to follow up everything. It's like, god damn it. So it was a lot of anxiety and a lot of, I think, overthinking some things. Whereas we're actually like working on the next record as we speak, and I have 10 or 12 songs for it. And the sort of our promise to ourselves and like in the band is just like, this time around, we're not going to do what we've done like last times around. It's not going to be like, we're trying to get out of like the overthinking part of it. So I love songs like Pipe Rider and one
of my favorites. Fernander's like, Frog.
Yeah.
Great job.
Thank you. And also Caldera off the last one, but they are like these like weird epic prog almost medleys of all these ideas I just try to slowly piece together. Whereas like this new record that we're doing is so much more direct and actually harkens back more to O2IO, and like that it's just like some songs are like 3.5 minutes. Some are like, I think the longest one I have is like 5. So trying to act, I mean, I've never trying to actively write towards a direction. I'm just write and end up with the songs I have. But it seems like, I don't know, those long 11, 12-minute songs, I don't really have one of those currently. So, and I'm that's relieving also, because then it feels like the energy we're trying to capture with this coming record is much more of what makes O2IO shine. It's just like, it is a lot of first takes and just like more spur of the moments. We don't have the time to like overthink shit. If the first take is good, keep it. And so we're definitely trying to do that this time around, but also lean into all the sort of production finesse that we've learned with the last 2 records. We're like, I can't really help myself. If you can layer in 3, 4 stacked vocals that you don't really hear but you feel, or like guitars that more sit like almost like I'm thinking of guitars sometimes almost you would think of a synth, like just a pad synth vibes. And like, yeah, just like more like how you would if you're thinking like Blade Runner, like that kind of like where it's just like this cinematic bed of murmur below the music. That's sort of, I guess, the difference between like present day Lowrider and O2IO is just I'm trying to fit. I hear all of that production nowadays. That's also why we're a 5-piece now when we play live instead of 4, because we have this fantastic guy called Pelle who's like adding organs and synths and just like all of that sort of just the carpet of minutia that is underneath all the guitars.
Yeah, if you have a guy like that playing keys and synth and all, that's magic, that's vibe. Like Alden Witches and King Buffalo do that kind of stuff too. And it's yeah, just those little tinges of magic behind the monster riffs. And it's the kind of music I love, man. And I'm a deep listener too. So when you put the cans on a good sounding record and you hear that stuff in the background, that really adds to it. And it gives the listener something to come back and listen to it again. Because you're catching things you didn't catch before. And I think that's really important, especially in rock and roll.
Yeah, for me, I've always been like an album kind of guy.
Me too,
and a headphones kind of guy. I like to listen to the stereo as well, but it's to me like again, like I hear the music in my head, and then the most satisfying thing is to hear it back, like in headphones when it's done, and I feel like we fucking did it. Like this is what I heard in my mind, and that was actually like the first time I heard the final mix of Pipe Rider when we did Refractions. That was also such a turbulent time of just trying to do that record and do it right. I just burst into tears because it was just like, it was such a relief just hearing, fuck, I think we did it. And it's just, it had all that sort of, it was literally like that kind of cinematic journey that I wanted to be. And I had these demos of it first that I thought were like close to what I wanted. And then when you start to record it and you feel like it's going somewhere else and it's like, fuck, it's not.
It changes.
You're just trying to like hold this slippery soap in your hands, and you feel it's like there's 100 ways you can just fuck this up. And then when you actually have locked it in and you feel like, fuck, I think we did it. That is such a relief. And it's the anxiety of making music, I guess. It's just like when you care, it also, the fact that you care makes failing at it miserable. Or when you feel like I knew there was something there that I heard and it's not there. And it's, I don't know, most of that is internal and no one else. It's mostly late nights and myself dealing with that, but that's also why it's 3-4 years between records, is because there's a lot of that.
You get too close to it sometimes. The older I get and whatever project I'm going to get into next, it's important to have somebody else in the room kind of for fresh ears that aren't so close to it all the time. That'll give you a little bit of perspective sometimes too, but just depends.
For sure. Now I've usually like just lived with my demos for a while until I felt like I could share with the other guys. And now I've been, since like we put out the last two records, I feel more like confident just like sending something that's literally like just me with an unplugged electric guitar, just mumbling into the voice memos app, just sending that to get a reaction, see like, is there anything? And if you, to the other guys, and usually that is sort of like, it's just good for your own psyche to step out of it, whereas it doesn't need to be like the solitary process of sitting and thinking, is this anything? Or am I nuts? So yeah, I'm trying to do more of that. It's been a lot of, again, I'm the main songwriter, so it's a little bit, historically I've been kind of like a solitary, I don't know, going down into the basement, and then after a while you become, yeah, it's like what it's called, cabin fever. It's like you can get like musical cabin fever real quick.
When you guys get into a jam room, does anything ever drop out of the ether? Like you have a song kind of.
Oh, for sure. We're trying to do more of that, but since we're still in 4 different cities, it's jamming is hard. I've tried to like just, I know the other guys so well, so I know like this is probably what they would have done here, and I'm thinking like almost like leaving room for stuff they would do. So it's a little bit like you're a coach and you know your players. It's just like, yeah, this is without even consulting that player. Oh, he could do that play and run that way. And so I'm almost like writing and thinking of, here's a little spot for them to do that, this and that. But then other times I'm just trying to be like a little bit like the fly on the wall, just documenting, because our guitarist Ola, or Ola is his name in Swedish. He is so much more just like a faucet they open. He's more stream of consciousness when he plays. So actually like Red River on Refractions, that riff was just him when we were doing Ode to Io. He was just like noodling and like just doing, I was just like, what the fuck did you just do?
Right. Those are awesome moments sometimes.
And he didn't even remember it. So I had to like, then I think it was this. It was, yeah, maybe. But he wrote the riff, and then I have to just, it's like a butterfly. He's just like, whoop, you need to catch it, because otherwise it's going to be gone. And that happens a lot. Like when we were putting down solos and stuff for Refractions, I understood that my role here as sort of the producer, I guess, when we're sitting in those sessions, is to just have him I'll just put the part that he's soloing on as on a loop, and he'll just play. And then the least, like when he's not thinking at all, that's when he's the best. Because then usually like there's like magic sprinkled out of it, and then I'll just get the best parts and either edit those together or like finding, here's a thing where like if you just that note differently, if you just re-record that. But it's like his stream of consciousness, a lot of riffs come from that, where I just hear him doing something fantastic. And then it's almost with sampling culture in hip hop or like electronic music. It's just like, I heard that little thing, that little break beat was perfect, and just lift that out of the take, and that becomes a song. Right. It's almost like I'm sampling him a lot of times. So Red River was 100% that. I was just sampling his sort of stream of consciousness and then writing more on top of that.
So it kind of leads me into a question I wasn't even planning on asking, but so you guys record like that, and then when the record's done, so you guys have to rehearse quite a bit before you tour, because you're kind of learning the song to play, you know?
Yeah. And we also don't limit ourselves to, this is stuff that we need to be able to play, right. Especially with Refractions, since it was done in a void of, we're not really touring. We're playing some shows here and there, but it's like, we're not playing these songs. The only goal was like make the best record, and then we'll try to figure out if it's playable live, because it's just so different beasts, or such different beasts. So yeah, it's literally that, where like we've recorded something, we're happy, and then we have to go back and figure out some of it, since some of the like first take, just spur of the moment stuff, it's literally, you can't remember how you played it. You need to go back and like, how did I play that? And I think that is, so in a way we're like a cover band of ourselves, I guess. But I think the best stuff we've done is created that way, where it is us, but it's made almost like you're just playing with your subconscious. You're just in flow state. And then you have to figure out later, because when you're in flow state, you're not really like overthinking, is this good, is it bad? It's just, I'm just doing. And that's why what I said about recording and then listening back and recording again and having this iterative motion is, I think it is so much better, because I can't, when I'm recording something, I can't be creative then, really. It's sort of more of like then you're doing it technically correct. Whereas, and then you can listen back, was that any good? That's like just two different brain halves, really, like performing or listening. Yeah, it's just way better to just, I know that I've heard like Pearl Jam does that, where they record every rehearsal. And I talked to Bob also from Fu Manchu that they do that a lot, where they record every rehearsal and then they listen back to it, and they find cool stuff that they didn't think of that they were doing.
Right.
Yeah, you put yourself in a flow state where you're just playing, and everything is allowed, because this is not going on the record. We're just playing. And actually, that was a fun thing about just capturing stuff that we done spur of the moment. Was one of the Desert Fest gigs in, I think, Berlin, I saw on YouTube after the fact, and I saw Ola playing a solo for Ol Mio Pepe that's on Refractions, and he was like doing this ripping solo that just opens up, was like that kind of like solo, like just this staccato, so spur of the moment solo. I was just like, you need to do that for the record.
Yeah, all the time now.
Yeah. And so we like recreated that basically, like looking at YouTube. What the fuck did you do there?
Yeah.
But that would have just been lost to the ether if we didn't have a recording of it. So yeah, just try to go into flow state and record, and don't think so much about what's on there, and then just try to find the nuggets.
I'm happy to hear you guys are doing a new one. I can't wait to hear that. You have to come back on. We'll have to talk about that when it comes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Well, you need to get back to Odio a little bit, because I know you're doing this reissue. You stated that it was a young, naive record. What was it like going back to that and doing the little fixes that you probably had the opportunity to do again with the reissue, with the art, everything? I know you had told a story on Instagram. You had the original pressing with the new pressing. Kind of get into that a little bit. And did you guys fix any of the recording stuff?
The recording, actually, long story short, we actually found old master tapes.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
And scanned those back in. We sent those actually to the States to be baked and then scanned in and back again, just to actually see is there anything we want to change, or would we want to remix or do something wild with them. But the actual like music that's on this reissue is the same that we put out for the past couple of years. We did for the 20th anniversary, we just put it out ourselves, as we got the rights back to the record, and we put it out on vinyl for the first time in forever. But that was still not with this packaging that we're doing now. So it's like a twofer, or like a two-pronged sort of betterment of what was there. Because I'll show you, I think it's here. This is, I don't know if this is a visual podcast or not, but
yeah, it is.
This is the first vinyl pressing of Otoayo. And the fun thing is, like, it's on one LP. And it's, for anyone who knows vinyl records, is especially like heavy bass, heavy and distorted music, where it's like a lot of highs and lows that need to fit into the grooves. If it's supposed to sound any good, you can't put more than like 20 or 22 minutes of record or minutes of music on each side. And this is, I don't remember, it's more than that. So when this was sent off to be made by a licensee back in the day, not our real record label, because they weren't doing vinyl then, they were licensing it out. We got it back, and because they were cheap, they didn't tell us. They put it on one disc or one like LP, and so the sound quality is miserable, or is at least not as it should.
It's like those early Caius records, man. Some of the pressings on those records just sound terrible.
Because you can't fit the grooves in there that is necessary for that low end. And then on top of that, this was supposed to be in like the silver print. I had spent so much time on like getting that separated and like this was supposed to be like silver and black and like this Pantone color. If you're a print nerd, that means anything, but these would have been like this very like elaborate separation of colors and more like a screen printing look. And it came back because they cheap shit skated us on that as well. It's like I think they got the invoice for what it would cost, and they was like, well, fuck that. Or can you convert it to black and white and print it in grayscale, which they did. So like visually and sonically, that first pressing was never what like we intended. So when we did the reissue ourselves, we wanted to do it something different. So then was the 20th anniversary, so we did it in gold instead, because we just figured, it looks like something else. You can see that it's the reissue with, and these tracks are also remastered, not from the tapes, but from the masters we did. Those were always like, to me, a little bit like tinny and kind of like harsh to listen to, especially at loud volumes. So we just made them warmer and got more low end in there. So, and also we fit like the split record we did with Nebula back in '98, like this one. We fit those tracks into here as well. So you got like all the early Lowrider discography on that record. And that's now a double record as well. So you can like get the dynamics in there. But now for the 25th, we felt like now's our chance to do that like silvery special, like it's too expensive to make kind of a special printing. Plus we did that. Plus I now have 25 years of experience of doing like design and print material. So I could do it even better than back then at it. So now it's actually printed on like this, I don't know, I don't have it here yet because it's coming fresh off the printers, but it's not printed with like silver color, but rather on a silver board where like we're printing black on it, and then everything that would have been paper is printed with white ink instead.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
it's going to be a very special look to it, and more like a very bespoke screen printed poster. And then on top of that, we've added like essays from the band and essays from writers, and tons and tons of photos from that time, from the sessions and from that time when we were touring and in the rehearsal rooms that has never seen the light of day before. So it's sort of the definitive love letter to that period.
That's a dream. To have an old piece of work to come to life in kind of new ways, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's also sort of, we felt like if we are getting to do this, we should do it right. And it's even more like a love letter to the fans that care. Because literally, when we left like O2IO, not behind, but like when we started doing other stuff in life in 2003, that was still not like a seminal record or anything. It got like great reviews when it came out, and we had a good run with it. But a lot of bands had that. They got like a 4 out of 5 or like a 5 out of 5, or people really like the record. But then you play a show and there's 8 people there or like 40 people there. It's just like, it isn't, oh, we're playing Wembley. So
right.
We were not like under the illusion that we were becoming rock stars or anyone cared that much. So coming back then in 2013 and realizing like in our absence, the internet and people just by caring, they had made this record their own. It was almost like just a snowball that you left up top of the hill, and then you come back like a year later, it's slowly just gone downhill, and now it's just like this massive thing.
That happens a lot more nowadays. I don't know if you're familiar with the band Acid Bath, but that's what happened.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I remember when we were kids and those records coming out, and they were just a tiny band playing bars that we were playing in. And over the last 25 years, it has exploded into this almost mainstream metal band. This reunion they're doing is insanely huge. It's like, hell, and that was just over years in the internet. That's crazy.
Yeah, and the same thing if we could just go back a couple of years, when Sleep were playing, like no one.
Absolutely,
right? I had the record and I loved it, but it was like Kaya's that weren't big at all made them look like a small band. And then you realize like coming back, it's just like they are met with all the praise that they deserve. But it's just like going to see them play live then, and also we shared the stage a couple of times during those tours with them. It was just like, I just felt like this is everything that's right with the universe. This is
this
is like the happy end of this is why anyone would do it. And I think it just felt like since then, also Pike is an unstoppable force doing High on Fire and everything. I think it's just like it was just inevitably going to happen. But still, it's like I have so many favorite bands that nothing ever happened to.
Yeah, me too.
So it's just fantastic to see some of them like just, and us included, having, even if it took time, it's just, I don't know, it's just beautiful to be a part of it. Seeing that happen or being a part of it and being on stage.
Right. That's killer. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about Blues Funeral. I know you're a co-founder with Jad, right? On that?
Yeah, it's definitely Jad's baby, but he was like, he sold Meter City, the label that he had and signed us on. And then he was like, just like us were like out of the Lowrider game for a bit. He was out of the record bit for a game. And then he just had this urge to do it again. And we talked for a good while. Like he was just like, I have this dream of starting something, but I want it to be special. And I have this idea of building a trust with the audience in a way that no label really has done. So he actually had, the label was just a vessel for his idea that was Postwax, this sort of like subscription service of trust us, we'll send you awesome music that you don't already know, or some of it you'll know. But it was like, that was like that consistency of doing stuff that is like curated, almost like where it could be a way where that Man's Through In were in the 90s and stuff like that, where you would buy records from a label just based off of, know that it's going to be good. So, and yeah, that started sort of like hand in hand as I was writing Refractions. So that's why Refractions was one of the first Postwax releases and one of the first Blues Funeral releases. Because I felt like I want to do a new record, but I also didn't want to, we had issues with, like, when he sold Meter City, we'd had issues with the next owner and just getting the rights back to and doing what we wanted with the record. It was the long struggle of doing that. So we just felt like we will never ever again sign away our rights to a record where we don't like have ownership of it, at least like in the creative parts. So Jad knew that. So it became sort of like this brotherly just like mission of, he wanted to do the record label, and he also wanted to do right by the bands. And us being the first thing, he was like, we were the first band that he signed, and we were the first band that he signed for Blues Funeral as well. Right. So we sort of, it gave us a deadline. We're doing Postwax, we're doing Blues Funeral, and we're doing a new Lowrider record. And so it needs to happen somewhere around here, because now we've started to sell subscriptions for Postwax. So yeah, it was actually a really good like deadline that made Refractions come out in 2000 and not, or actually not in 2020, actually late 2019 if you were a subscriber, and not 2 years later, because I could have spent more time on that.
Right, of course.
But yeah, it's a sort of a love letter to what record labels should be. And it's definitely, it's not making us a ton of money, and it's so much work with the Postwax editions for me as a creative. But it's also, it's the only vessel we know where we could, we're trying to create our dream job. Getting someone to say, hey, you can do this like curated vinyl record series where if you put down all the records next to each other, all the record sleeves are going to form this one big cohesive image. If someone came to me and said like, that was like, oh, that's a dream project, and you're like, that's never going to happen because you have to create that shit yourself. What we did for 2 years nonstop. And then we did it all over again with the Postwax year 2. That was even worse.
Yeah.
Or not worse, but I just made more problems for myself.
Was it bigger though the second time around? You guys obviously did it again, so the Postwax thing was probably doing okay, so that's why you did it again.
Financially, it was an absolute disaster of an idea. It was like selling the regular, every edition of Postwax was like leaking money. It was like selling the regular versions of the records, then that sort of made up for it. But Postwax was super in the red. It was that's sort of like an art project. But it was for us and for the heads. And the same thing goes for like the second edition of Postwax. It was just like, how the fuck can I top that first thing? And it's like, I realized, like, hey, if we punch out like a hole in the vinyl, that actually sort of, we're just punching, because we're doing that because I was doing like this diorama 3D version of the record. If you put it up like that, you could look at the artwork as in 3D. And I was like,
that's cool.
We're just throwing that away. I realized it's like this big, just make that whole, we're printing that side anyways, and we're throwing it away. It's like, that's shape is sort of like a game board. And I was like, fuck, okay. So even people who bought that thing, I don't know if they assembled it, but the whole series, like the second Postbook series, has like a full playable game that if you lay it out, you have all the different bands as playable characters. And you can go this whole route. You can be up to 9 players, and we figured out and here's like the cosmic thing, that the old co-owner that Jed had the first label with Meteor City, Aaron, he's not with Blues Funeral, but what he has done the last 10 years is he's writing gameplay and rules for board games. So we were just like, hey, can you help us with like rules for this board game?
That's cool, man.
Yeah, but it was so much work. We're not doing it again. But if you happen to have Postrex Year 2, that is sort of like just all the lasers focused into one beam.
That's cool. That's a good collectible for people that are really into it.
For sure, yeah. And they are like the most extra everything you can think of in a vinyl edition of anything.
How do you kind of balance the art with the business on that side of it? I'm sure you can get to a level of burnout if you let it. How do you keep the passion with all that? On the art
I have just weaponized my ADHD, I think. No, I don't know. I've always just been having 300 projects going at the same time and being late with everything, because I constantly like just everything that's interesting I want to do and start. Very much a time optimist. Again, sort of why records take time, because it's not my only focus. But it is my focus when I do them. But yeah, I'm multitasking consistently. But yeah, again, we never set out for the post-rec stuff to be anything other than for us. That's not supposed to make money. It was just like, we want this to be in the world. And then we know that by doing that, it will spark interest for people to look at the regular version of it as well. And it's sort of just, I'm a like stark believer in that if you create momentum, it's going to create more stuff. So if there is something cool that you could do, just do it. I think it will have something that you didn't count in as an outcome from it that's going to be positive.
It's a community building.
Yeah,
for sure. And I think a handful of other labels that are in the same realm as Blues Funeral are doing that too. I wish America had more of that. It seems like you guys out in Europe have a stronger community in rock and metal, and it's kind of incestual that way. You got all going in and out of each other's worlds and building that community together. It seems to be like a real cohesive goal there.
I can't speak on that.
It looks like, I was like, man, there's some cool labels out there doing some really cool shit.
Yeah, I think if you look at it, it's like anything is like a small little pond of 5.5 fishes, like just going about doing stuff, but sometimes making big splashes. And in Sweden, it's kind of out of necessity that you have to collaborate and create a community, because there's not, and you have to also reach outside of your own country to do anything, because like the scene here is too small. You can absolutely have a couple of gigs, whatnot, but it's like the Hives, for example. They're from like a tiny village up in almost pretty close to where Dozer is from. But like that's like playing just locally there. It's like that's just, you need to go outside of that to do anything. And I guess that's also why like Swedes are so good at English, because like if just speaking Swedish is not going to take you anywhere. Yeah. So we have that sort of, I don't know, a little bit like constantly looking up to the sky, or at least like looking outwards, and maybe just like some sort of a generational ingenuity and just go do it kind of mentality. And you don't need a lot of people being like that for it to start to become a scene. If I'm looking at the people are doing shit in Sweden. It's still like the same 20 people.
It's really inspirational to see. It really inspires me. Like I've been talking to some bands from Stickman Records too, and I love the Magnetic Eye label, and it's inspiring here. It makes me want to try and get some community-based thing going outside of Cleveland and kind of building a community too. That's where you guys are making an effect. It is the dream job. It's who cares about money. We all need that, but if you're going into a workspace and you're inspired, that's priceless, I think. And I know it's corny, but man, it's true. And the older I get, the more I realize it. So
Yeah, it's there's this thing in psychology or whatever it is where it's like this staircase of needs. I don't know, remember what
the
who.
hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
where once you have your basic needs, especially if you're starting to become like I have the money, at least like the money to pay the rent and everything else, you realize
Right.
just start to become apparent to you what's important and
Right.
what and I realized I don't need to make more money than this because then I would also need to sacrifice like the stuff that is actually like giving me oxygen to, and that is doing lowrider. And even if that is like such an uphill battle with us being in 4 different cities, it is literally like whenever we play together, it's like Christmas Eve.
Right.
We don't do it often, and that's why when we do it, it's so special. And
Right.
I know that it's like I'm not gonna. This thing is limited. I know that I could literally maybe know that times we are going to play live and rehearse and do records and whatnot. That's like maybe 1,000 times left if we're not changing anything radically. But it's just like I know that make every occasion doing this count.
Right.
And even if you're having like a shit day or like you might be annoyed with something with someone else in the band, it's just like nothing goes above the necessity for this to be special and for it to be the four of us, or with Pelle when we're playing live, the five of us too. We've all come to that sort of place where the quarrels we had in the studio making Ojio, we just have come to the place where we feel like nothing is ever worth it to argue like that ever again.
Right.
It's just like we only have this when we're playing. It's like it's an hour on stage, and when we're in the studio, it's like we just have a day or something like that. Is no one is interested in wasting that on like just I don't know something mundane or everyday or I don't know anxiety. So we're kind of different. All the four of us are very different in the band, but when we hang out, we have this. I don't know. They're just my brothers, and I'm forever grateful for the very much of a happenstance that made us fall into the same room and then make that record that then now makes it relevant for you to talk to me.
I relate a lot because I had a band that I was in for 20 years and we had a guy move out of state, but we still did it. And all the hard work that goes into running a band, booking shows, booking studio time, it all became worth it when we were all in the same room rehearsing for a show. It's like, oh, there it is. There's the feeling. It's back. So it kind of comes and goes. But yeah, I relate to that completely, man.
Yeah, and I'm forever thankful that we can play these big shows and get to do these festivals and meet people and that they're in listening to the records. But in the end, is what makes it like why we're doing it is because when it's just the four of us in a room, it's because that feeling is just it's the same as it was in 99. And we're trying to and we realize the older you get, you realize just how scarce of a thing that is that you have that, let alone with one other person. That's usually called a marriage. But like that you have that as a 4 piece or a 5 piece, that you have that kind of just you don't need to say anything, you just do. Then you don't fuck with that. It just leave that as the beautiful thing it is, and when you're doing it, just let it be that. So that's what we're trying to do, just not really interfere too much, and just it's almost like when people are talking about like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but it's almost like what happens outside of this just is irrelevant. Like when we're doing this, we don't need to talk about what happened at work.
Right.
Because it's sort of like I care about the other guys, but it's not really relevant to like us as people. When we're together, it's irrelevant that what happened last week or 2 months ago, they're going to be the same people to me anyways. I think that's the beautiful thing about Lowrider, that it's just friends for a long time that do things together.
I have kind of a selfish question because I've been asking a lot of the bands from Europe that I've been talking to lately, any plans of coming to America ever? Damn it, I want to see you guys. Or I need to get out there one way or another. It's got to happen. But I've talked to Slomosa and Temple Fang and asked those guys the same things. Slomosa comes out to America. I know.
Oh yeah, they tour a lot. They have all the not kids that we have, and
yeah, they're like 30.
Yeah.
I was saying how old he was on the podcast. I was like, dude, you're 30. That's perfect.
That I love everything about them.
They're awesome.
And I also I don't envy what they're doing touring wise, because I know how hard it is, but I also wish them everything good, because I know they're putting in so much fucking work, and I know that we couldn't really do what they're doing even back then, because we just had, again, scattered mind, tons of other stuff going on, and they're just locked in like we're doing Slomosa now. And so I hats off to that. But for us, we're looking at the possibilities of going to the US. It's not easy for us, and especially since we now want to do it as a 5-piece, because that is when we sound the best. We sound good as a 4-piece as well, but like the 5-piece is really where it's at. It's very expensive for us to travel, and it's also like hard on family life. But most of all, I have to say, like, currently, not to get too political, but it doesn't feel super safe traveling to the US right now, and it feels kind of, there's a lot of other places where we could go without it being complicated.
Well, Europe, because it's probably a lot easier for you right now, and I get it. Maybe I'll make you guys got to play a festival just for me, okay?
Yeah.
And
like I say, we are definitely looking into it. Okay, but cool. it is a little bit like seeing this little like hill, and then you're looking at Mount Everest. Yeah, it's just climbing, both of them, but one is easier.
Let me know if you want to come to Cleveland. Maybe we can, and I know a few people out here. Maybe we can get some things going at a venue or two out here.
For sure.
If you can make it happen.
I've heard that Cleveland is a place to go to play rock.
There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of venues here. There's several new venues here. There's a lot of live music. As far as the music scene, I don't know. It used to be very vibrant for heavy metal and hard rock. And I know there's I'm kind of out of touch with the local scene right now. I've been doing other things, but I was with another band shortly, and we were struggling to find kindred spirits. So I don't know. They're out there. They are. When I find one, I'm definitely going to blow them up on this channel, but as much as I possibly can, or as much as I can possibly help. But there's a lot of venues here, and people love heavy music here. A lot of heavy bands tour and stop here, and they love Cleveland. So there's a lot of shows coming through here. It's just not a lot of prevalent Cleveland bands right now.
The only thing I'm thinking of is, we jokingly, I think it's from like a Kiss show or something, where they shout, "Hello, Cleveland!"
Yeah,
like at the beginning of the show. And so that it's been like Nicholas's go-to when he's just checking the mic forever.
Yeah,
just, "Hey, Cleveland!" So
good night.
I don't really have anything on Cleveland other than that.
Yeah,
but I guess that's something, and I'd love to know more.
Yeah, reach out to me and we'll talk more, man. Maybe we can get some things going when you guys are ready. Super excited for a new Lowrider record. Time limits are tough, but any kind of tentative date probably next year for a record?
Yeah, we're recording it already, like in this sort of iterative mode that we're doing. And I know what songs it's going to be, and the songs are kind of done, which is way further along than we've been in the same sort of timeline before. On the other hand, we're not doing like a 4-track EP or like like that. It's definitely going to be like 10 or 12 songs.
Yes, good. So tired of the EP and the single thing, man. I want full albums.
You're going to get a lot. But again, we're going to put it out when it's done, but it is, hopefully, if we can just get our sort of schedules together and just get some sort of frictions just technically to work better during the autumn here, I would want it to come out next year. It's going to be probably late next year, but Yeah, that's sort of the plan.
Awesome. Great news. Well, a lot of projects going on. What's going on? You guys have the reissue. Where can everybody find that? What's going on with Blues Funeral? If there's any big projects coming up with that. And then we've already talked about Lowrider. So where can we find all this stuff?
Bandcamp is where it's at.
Bandcamp.
And fuck Spotify.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that, man, and I'm starting to agree with it.
Yeah. But yeah, Bandcamp, you can pre-order the reissue right now. And it's going to be dropping like mid-September on the 25-year mark of when Otai was released. And but yeah, they're done in the plant, so they're getting shipped to the distributor right now. So it might actually come out early for some people to pre-order it. Go to the Blues Funeral Bandcamp, and if you are interested in more stuff from Blues Funeral, we have the Post-Wax Unlimited series right now that you can sign up to. That is less this box set and more of just like this ongoing fantastic sort of version of the records that we're putting out anyways. So this, for example, since it's a visual medium, this is the fantastic record by Goya. And if you were to be getting it like standard version, looks like this.
Okay.
And then all of these records have this slide in thing where it lines up to where I have this like forever symbol.
Very cool.
Because it's Post-Wax Unlimited, and then you have the Blues Funeral Kasky icon in the back. And then it also like these have a different vinyl color, and just they're a little bit more lavish than the standard release, but also and you get them early. So if you want to get cool music on a regular sort of schedule, go subscribe to Post-Wax. That's also via Blues Funeral. So yeah, go check that out.
Right on. Thanks for talking to me, and we'll talk to you soon when the new Lowrider's out. And there's plenty of other projects too that you do that I would love to talk to you about too, but we'll do that on another one.
We will. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks for talking, man.
Bye.